Whether you're listening now during the amazing full moon that's happening uh, this January 10, 2020, or if you're listening in the future, let me introduce you to a new way of looking at the moons. And this is called lunation, Lemurian Lunation. And I'll start by saying that this name and this concept comes to me to be brought to you through the Pleiadian star mothers, the mothers who brought to the planet this amazing concept of spirituality and humanity together. So with lunation, we look at the past, the distant, distant past, the time before we had clocks and watches and calendars, and how we told time by the stars, by the moon, and by the sun. And that in turn gave us seasons and tides and equinoxes and solstices, and it's all one. So I'm not going to talk to you during this Lemurian lunation about astrology, because that came much later. And perhaps the Lemurians and Pleiadians had other names for the signs in the sky, that what we call the constellations. Perhaps they were completely different 200,000 years ago. So that when we look up now and we are looking at the things that were named just a few thousand years ago, we're looking at something completely different. The sky changes, just like time changes and civilization changes. So what I bring you in this series of Lemurian Lunation is a way of looking at the wheel of a year, the cycle of 1 year, from the solstice in December until the following solstice in December. And one of the things I want to add right now is that our last full moon, December 12, 2019, so 12/12, 2019, that was a full moon. And so on the solstice, we were closer to a new moon. And this is how we look at the cycles of life, that it happens in the sky, it happens on the earth, and together we bring them into our being. Now we've moved very far in these thousands of years from living in real harmony with those cycles. The Lemurians and all the islanders and people that have lived on the coast of continents for millennia have had the tides to tell time with. They could look in the sky, see the moon, put it together that the tide would be high. And that cycle would go throughout the day and the night and throughout the year, lifetime after lifetime. But we have a different way of looking at it now. We have, as I said, clocks and calendars and astrology. But I want to take you back to astronomy and what the star mothers have taught me just recently as I prepared this next year of following the cycles of the full moon, is that these moons begin with 1 in January. The completion is the December before. So now we have the first full moon of the month, of the cycle. And so imagine that we never had months. Imagine that we never had weeks. Imagine that we looked into the sky and we saw what was happening there. And perhaps you were one of those that kept track of it for the rest of the clan, for the rest of the tribe. Perhaps you were a casual observer, or perhaps you observed more in depth. So this first moon of this year cycle, January 10, 2020 in our calendar. It's been called many things in astrology and by the indigenous. And I want to take you a little further than that, back a little further so that that knowledge can come forward a little more. So the Star Mothers really have given me another tool to use the Lemurian codes for activation and healing, using Star Center, or as we know, Chakra 1, for January, the first month of our cycle. And this is what that looks like. This is called Star Center 1. And I'd like you to just listen. I'm going to read you what it says on the back of these cards. And this is what was given to me by the Star Mothers when these cards were created. And imagine as you listen that you're sitting in a tropical paradise similar to Lemuria. Perhaps you're under a big palm tree, or perhaps you're at the edge of the ocean and you're listening to the sounds of the waves as you know that what we're facing in the next moon cycle reaches into our physical being as well as into our spiritual being and our celestial being with these words. Star Center 1. Up from the crystalline structure of Mother Gaia, your human form rises to stand firmly on the earth. You are rooted in her foundation, and you are your own being. From this position of stability, you discover your place in the tribe of humanity, nourishing your longing to belong to your human and spiritual family. Star Center 1. So Star Center 1, as we know, it's a very deep internal time of the year, January, in the Northern Hemisphere. And we talk about connecting, we talk about instincts, we talk about nurturing the tribe in a deep way. Perhaps we had hours of storytelling because the nights were darker, longer. So we have that in the Northern Hemisphere. And maybe the family will curl up in front of the TV and watch a movie. But what if you were together with your family, with your friends, your tribe, and you had a different ceremony, you had a different way to honor this very powerful time? We have in the Lemurian Sisterhood teaching wheel a spoke called power cycles. And those consist of ceremonies, celebrations, and life missions. So here we are in a full moon ceremony. What if you, just you, celebrated and had a ceremony today about the full moon? Maybe you would just light a candle. Maybe you would light a candle and you would read this card and you would make a place where they would be together. And your connection to your instinctual deep connection to your tribe is honored at this time and through the cycle of 28 days until the next full moon. And perhaps you're not feeling too connected to your tribe right now, and this is a really good way to create this. So from the hub of the wheel, of the Lemurian Sisterhood teaching wheel, there is a spiral that comes out from the center, and it's coming from that hub, which is called the womb of creation. So what a wonderful way to begin. And perhaps you can visualize that a wheel with 5 spokes that has a spiral in the center. And as that spiral begins to unwind, it comes into that spoke of power cycles, where the celebration of the moon in all her beautiful phases and the equinox and the solstices, that comes from that center hub, the womb of creation. And some years we have 12 moons, and some years we have 13. These are the shamanic principles to connect to those power cycles and use them every day. They are really a source of your own knowing. So right now, the Star Mothers would like to give you a gift of their presence and speak through me something about this powerful first moon of this powerful year of 2020. So just close your eyes for a moment with me, if you would, and take a breath. And take another breath. Dear Shining Ones, we step into this meeting with Mele'ha, and we celebrate from our celestial space beyond the orbit of your Earth and Moon. We celebrate with you from the stars. And yes, indeed, this is a time for you to come back to that power, that all-seeing, all-knowing power that you have within you. This is how you lived in Lemuria. You did not have books. You did not have watches and clocks, as Mele'ha has said. You had the deeper connection, this vibrational connection that you were born with. You were born into the Garden of Eden. You were born into this temple of humanity and divinity. And the first lessons from us to you were the lessons of that inner knowing. You can feel it when the moon is coming full. You can recognize when it has passed. And we know that the women in Lemuria had their cycle on that moon. And we know that some of you still do, but many do not, because life on Earth has been interrupted by artificial light, and people who do not live on the Earth, that is no longer practical. But what we would like to offer you now is a way to meet with us every month of your calendar, every moon of the next cycle. Meet with us and spend this time in celebration and acknowledgement of the shaman that you are. The shaman that you are awakening inside of you. And finding the trust to live in that. That is a challenge for you, our beloved ones, is to trust that inner knowing. We push our dear Mele'ha all the time to trust that. That is why she started these recordings for you. We have pushed her out of her comfort zone of her previous year and into something that she doesn't know, that the teachings have to come forth through her, not from her. And so we ask you this by example. Let your own wisdom, your own shamanic teachings come forth through you. You have it. You don't trust it, but you have it. Dear Shining Ones, trust this if you if you may, to begin with, that we promise you the connection to your own divinity. And in that divinity is your awareness. And that awareness is clear and pure. That awareness does not rely on what you've been taught in this lifetime. That awareness relies on the many lifetimes that are in your magnificent and very full Akash. Trust that. Explore that. Step into that. Beloved, beautiful children of ours, we see you growing, and we reach out to you all the time. Sometimes you hear us, sometimes you do not, but we are ever present for you. And perhaps in this moon cycle, you will light the candle, you will read the card or write the prayer or the declaration of your shamanic abilities. And you will let that be a part of your life in a bigger way. Invite it, allow it, say yes. Celebrate the shaman that you are. And even if you don't feel like it, celebrate it anyway. And you will begin to notice subtle changes and differences. That little voice in your head that becomes louder, that is it. As it becomes louder, you trust it more, you try it on, you see if it works, and then you take the next step in trust. Keep doing that. What do you have to lose? You have only to gain, and you have us, your mothers, beside you. Take a breath. And as we begin to step back, we leave you with this. We ask you to celebrate, to ceremony these moons with us, as we will guide you each month into a deeper understanding of your own shamanic power, into a deeper place of trust. You are all awakening together, and you support one another in that awakening. Let that guide you. Let the knowledge that you have family, you have your tribe, you have the instincts to find them, you have the synchronicities and the intuition to find each other. Trust that. And let yourself celebrate joyously this unfolding. We are with you, our dear shining ones, our children, and we give you our greatest love always. Remember, you are never alone. You are never unloved. You are never unworthy. You are always loved, celebrated, and honored. You are always loved, celebrated, and honored. And we step back. And take another breath. I hope you're feeling the love. I love feeling the love. What is better than having the star mothers acknowledge their children who are adults for years, but perhaps just beginning to feel the beauty and the love of ourselves. So it's time to reach beyond what you've known. Reach beyond time and space and matter. Reach beyond that. And let the unity of your own Akashic remembrance be what is real for you. Be what lives inside of you. Your own Akashic magnificence, your own sacredness. We are sacred in this together. And I thank you all for what you are doing, but more importantly, for who you are being in this great awakening. We awaken together, dear sacred ones. Until the next full moon, enjoy your celebration, make your ceremonies, and love and honor your sacredness.